Megan Gailey, thanks for doing the podcast.
This is my first podcast over FaceTime.
I use FaceTime because it all just syncs up better.
Mm-hmm.
Zoom, like whenever I export the quality, like it never looks good, and it doesn't FaceTime uses the same frame rate as the camera, as Premiere, and I don't know, it always worked. It's a little bit annoying because I have to screen record, but it works.
I don't understand anything you said, but I'm thrilled to be here on FaceTime.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, you must know some of it because you have that new sports show that you're doing.
Yes, I have been blessed with falling in love with someone who knows how to do all of these things. And it is a strain on our marriage, and he is mad at me a lot. But I have not learned a lot because my husband knows how to do it.
Yeah.
Does that make me a modern feminist?
No, it makes you
just knowing nothing and letting my husband do it.
I think you're reversing the power structure and making it work for you. So
Thank you. I cook.
There you go.
Cook. Yeah.
Round of applause.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about your sports show. So a big part of your online personality is the sports. You're a Colts fan. You're into football.
Yes. Yeah, I love the NBA a lot too. I'm a huge Pacers fan.
Yeah.
So it's just I've always been a sports fan, and I thought that I was going to work in sports well before I thought I was going to work in comedy. So it's kind of my origin story is just a little sporty girl.
I like sports. I was actually during the NBA finals in the early 2000s when it was like always Indiana and Lakers.
That was 2000.
Oh yeah, and I like the underdog. Like I was like, go Reggie Miller, he deserves.
Thank you.
One pat on your back. I always liked, even during the Bulls, I'm gonna admit it, like I wanted Karl Malone to win. I like the team that like doesn't get it to get a shot. I don't know, because I'm Canadian, too fair.
I like an underdog as well. And I think probably because I've always rooted for the underdog. You know, like the Colts, I guess in their Peyton years could have been, but they still weren't. Like even Brady and the Patriots were always kind of the favorite. So I've just always liked underdogs because that's unfortunately geographically where I am from.
I have a hard time getting into football because like I grew up in Canada. We have CFL, which is just different. And it doesn't like capture the national zeitgeist the way it does here. And I never played it. So like if I haven't tried the sport, like other than like throwing the football, obviously, like it just doesn't resonate with me. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I went to a Bills Colts game. This would have been early 2000s, maybe, mid-aughts. And there were a lot of Canadians there, and they said that they were fans of Peyton Manning. So I don't know if it's like his commercials or like the SNL of it all, but like they knew who he was and became fans of the Colts because of him. Now we've probably lost them at this point, but I've been to two Super Bowls, and I sat next to like Canadian businessmen at one of them, and they did not know what was going on, but they were there.
Yeah, I mean, it is broadcast. Like we watched the Super Bowl growing up. We know about it. It's just, I'm just talking for me personally, it didn't. But that's cool. Those Canadians are at the Super Bowl. So cool that you went to 2 Super Bowls. How'd you pull that off?
The first one was in Indianapolis that I went to. So it was in my hometown. All I had to do was drive down from Chicago where I was living at the time. And then the second one, my husband was working for the NFL. And so he had to go to the game to work, and then he got 2 Super Bowl tickets. So I took my dad. And then the year after that, I had to go back to the Super Bowl, but I did not go to the game. I was working for the NFL at that point. So I went for the days leading up to it and then actually flew home Sunday of the game.
Is it one of those things when you go that like it still feels amazing, or is it like you see the Super Bowl sausage being made and you're like, it's not as fun?
Yeah, you sort of see the sausage being made. I would have loved to have gone to one of the Super Bowls that the Colts were in, but so like you're already like, "Oh, I'm the reason the sausage is bad because I'm a non-fan at this game." And so both the ones I've gone to, I got to root against the Patriots, so I definitely had like a stake, and you're like hugging people, but it's not as exciting as and like cutthroat as an AFC or NFC championship game,
I
for
see.
sure.
Is like not liking Brady a big part of your sports feelings, or so to speak?
I wouldn't. No, I mean, not liking lots of people is part of it. It's not even specifically him.
Yeah.
But I know that he's the greatest of all time. I'm not like delusional about that, and he's a very good quarterback. But I can't go further than that with him.
My wife went to U of M, and
Mm-hmm.
they're like the same class, and they did a class call, and he went on the call.
Oh,
That's kind of some
great.
points, right?
Sure.
Not going to win you there. That's cool.
No, I mean, I know teammates like him. It's whatever.
It's all good. We're not here to talk about Brady. We're here to talk about other stuff. Even though, if you think about it, like he is, like we talk about show business on this podcast. Being an athlete of that stature is show business. Like you
Oh,
have
yeah, it's way
PR,
bigger
you have
than
talking, you have like
100%, 100%.
marketing
Yeah, it's
yourself.
he's a bigger star than any like one in show business, like
Yeah.
he just they become people that are on the cover of magazines for their relationships, and in the same way that famous actors do too.
Yeah, and you'll have like agents in town that be like, I
Oh,
represent this
yeah.
athlete, this actor, this
Yes.
comedian, and
Yes.
this musician.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all,
And they'll sometimes rep people like just for spokesperson things, like, oh, if they want to do acting, I rep them for this. Like they have a whole slate of agents in the same way that actors or like performers do.
yeah. Same with like LeBron built like a mini empire by like bringing up
Yeah.
his team and they run movies.
Uninterrupted
Yeah.
is massive. He has a production company. I mean, he wants to be like Walt Disney
Yeah.
without, the bad stuff.
I was doing some Google searches on you and I was looking at all the accomplishments you've had, like Comedy Central, you got the podcast, you had JFL. Do you feel that like you've accomplished like what your Megan from 5 years ago wanted to do? Like all the boxes have been ticked?
Oh, yeah, that's like so loaded because yes, probably like 100%, but I still don't feel like accomplished. So I've done it, but then you're still left like wanting more. And I think that's the delusion and illness that keeps you in a business like this.
That's totally true because no matter where you are, there's always someone below you that feels like, oh, I'd love to have what she has. And then you're looking up and being like, I want to now achieve that thing up there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so rare that you're just like fully content and at peace with where you are.
Yeah,
But we have therapy.
totally. Do you feel that were you working with like a manager or agent to help you spearhead these things? Did you just have good timing? Like, what do you think was the reason behind like that snowball of all these things coming together at once?
I did Just for Laughs New Faces, and I was unwrapped. I did not have agents or managers, and so when you do that, I think the hope. I just wanted to do like a good job, but then the hope is also to get agents and managers out of that, and I was lucky enough to have that happen. And so then I went up there. I had never even met with a manager and agent. And then I left Montreal with like a team of 7 people
Oh, wow.
and got like a late night set out of that set. And so that sort of was my introduction to the industry part of it.
Nice. So, because you do hear like sometimes JFL, people think they're gonna walk off of it and like go right into like a TV show, and
Yeah.
so you like the expectations are so high. But it does sound like you came out of it with like a lot of momentum and it gave you what it was all cracked up to be, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's really changed over time. I mean, people would do new faces and then walk away with a development deal, and that doesn't seem to happen as much. But my situation was very, very lucky. Like, our show was in this beautiful theater. It was a captive audience. Like, the Canadians were sitting in the front, and then the industry was at the back, which is like perfect placement, because
Yeah.
you want the like people that actually like want to laugh and have fun. And then, it sucks because I heard the year after it was like, oh, we were in this different building and like people were being rude and there was talking and it was hot. And it's like, God, so like that we know that in terms of individual shows, like how much just atmosphere and the
Totally.
crowd can matter. But for it to then be hinged on this being a make or break for people in a lot of ways, just like it's like just give everybody the same good atmosphere, like if it worked in one space the year before, keep it in that space, like don't fuck with it.
Totally.
So I feel really lucky, and I know people that have, I mean, even my year, it's like I didn't, when you're unrepped, they don't pay for you to go up. You have to pay your own way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I was a nanny at the time, so I also didn't make the money that I would usually, like, for that. I had to take off work and lose that money. So it's a hole that some people can't afford to do, or it is a real strain. And so they wanted people to have roommates, and I was like, I don't want a roommate. I just like don't even know what my mental state will be. But then there were people who did have roommates up there, and one would be getting called for these meetings and one wouldn't. And then you're just like kind of in this pressure cooker. And the day before we were all the same,
Yeah.
And it's like, why did this change? So it's really hard. And I don't know if I was fully prepared to step into it. So whenever people are going or want to talk about it or have a call back, I'm like more than willing to be like, listen, I had a wonderful experience. I still cried every single day in my hotel room and had like a lot of imposter syndrome and all these other feelings. So like whatever you are going through, which you will go through something, it is okay. And there are people that you can talk to. It just didn't feel like I knew what I was walking into entirely.
Totally. You're so right about like the atmosphere and the crowd. Like I helped put together the Dynasty Theater here, Dynasty Typewriter. And
that's put together beautifully.
Yeah, it's mostly Jamie's vision. He's a master at that. But there was the time when it was first getting started, we had Adam Sandler there shooting, and he was kind of like shooting for the potential to have a special, and it wasn't sure whether the footage from that would be used or not. But I remember like someone telling someone, hey, these important people are coming, rope off them some good seats. And so, like, the theater people, they go and they rope off these good seats.
Yeah.
And then the director for the special comes in and goes, what the hell are these? And then they're like, oh, they're roped off for these important people. He's like, get them out of here. He's like, I don't want them anywhere near the front.
No.
I was like, he was so commanding and so forceful, but, like, it made the special better. It made the night better. Like, you need real people in the front.
You do not want your own agents in the front.
Right.
Like and they're going to laugh too, but it's like, that's just not the vibe. You're like, are they being paid to laugh? Like, it's just, as a performer, you're like, get them in the back. I always want my parents in the back. Like I'm happy for anyone on earth to be there, but I cannot see the whites of their eyes.
Yeah, you don't want to make eye contact with anyone you know when you're on stage. No. Even though
I've had an uncle sit front row before, and I was like, well, because I like made it specific. Like, I don't want my parents there, but it's like I should have told them that's my fucking uncle. They don't know who he is.
Yeah. I mean, I did a Zoom show during like when LA was super locked down, and my parents would be on every show, and you're just like, I know they're there, and you're like.
Wow. Luckily, my parents have not figured out how to come to my Zoom shows. And like, I think the 3-hour difference is really helping me because they're not staying up till 11 o'clock to see me in Indiana. No way.
No. Oh, you got the time difference working for you.
Yes.
What's one thing you invested in terms of your career that like really paid off? It doesn't need to be money. It could be like your podcast, your building more Instagram, like something you felt like this was something I invested in and it really paid off for Megan.
Going to open mics. Like,
Ah,
I just really, I know that that's like a sad answer. But when I started in India and then very shortly moved to Chicago. So my formative sort of stand up years are from Chicago. And there was a real emphasis on like sets a week. And so I just got up all the time. And everything else in my life was kind of configured around that. Like I was a waitress or I was a nanny. Like I had a 9 to 5 for like a little bit, and it took me so much out of stand up that even though I really liked it, I was like, oh, I actually can't do this anymore. So I just arranged my life to be able to go to as many shows and mics a week as possible.
yeah, that's great. I did one right before this. Um, the
I don't do it anymore. It's like well, COVID's obviously changed it, but I still love I still will go to mics when this is over.
Yeah, like I just feel like I'm rusty in person. I need to
Mhm.
get a set in, and I knew someone running one down the street from me in a park. I'm like, I'll be
Great.
there. Like, let's go. And when I was looking you up, I saw an interview with you. I think it was a comic when you're talking about like your time in New York, and you're doing mics, and people were telling you to do your A material at mics, and you're like,
Oh
I'll do whatever
yeah.
I want at mics. And I thought that was so great.
Yeah, I do remember when we got to New York and it was like, oh, if you're doing these mics, they're like auditions. And it just I don't know. There's something about me once a joke, I've been doing it long enough, I almost like get tired of it. And so then I'm not doing it that well. So I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do new stuff in the hope that it's good because it just felt weird to me to go up and be doing like a tight five at an open mic. Like, and I would think it would be really transparent too.
Yeah, it's like you do see like in LA sometimes like someone from out of town, like from New York, will do a mic in LA, and they'll just hit you with like their best five and like blow
Hmm.
the room away at a mic, and you're like, that was cool, but that's all you can only do that because you're not from here. Like you can't come
Yeah.
here. If you came here in next hour, next week, it would just wouldn't be a thing. Like you can't do
Right.
that.
And I guess if the point is to like do that and then have people see you and go, "Oh, you're in town, you want to come and do my show," then
Yeah,
that's
that's
then
actually, yeah, it's good
that's
marketing.
mission accomplished.
Yeah.
But if the point is to get better, then that's not like what's happening, you know?
Yeah, because it is a way to try and just be comfortable with new material, which is the
Hmm.
end goal. But LA
Hmm.
still, it's an audition based town, so
I know.
you
Oh,
can feel the feeling of,
yeah.
yeah,
I was doing like an empty show at UCB Sunset, rest in peace. And there were like 11 people and and it's a cavernous space and 8 of them were industry comps. And I'm like, that what the that's this show is bad and there's 8 people that work at either a network or a production company or even an agency management that are here watching like this fucking sucks. Like bad shows in the rest of the country, the stakes are so much lower.
yeah,
I get stressed if there's yeah, I just get, when people are like, do you still get nervous? It's like, yeah, there's nerve-wracking situations all the time based on who's in the audience, what's it for, um, feeling rusty, doing new stuff, having to do like I'm going to do a set in someone's backyard after this and I'm doing 15 minutes and 15 minutes like pre-COVID that would go in like a flash, but
yeah,
it's like ooh, I got really like
yeah. It's a lifetime right now.
yeah, that's a lot. And so what's 45 going to feel like after
Yeah,
this? Like that will really make me nervous when I go out to do clubs again.
yeah. Once the reps come back, then it'll feel more natural. But yeah, like any time right now feels a little like a lot.
Yeah.
What's the inverse of the question I asked? Like, if you something you invested in, you're like, I think this is going to be a good path for me, and it just didn't turn out the way you thought it would for whatever reason.
Um, probably like acting. I thought like, and that was really my fault to some extent. Like I came out for pilot season after I did New Faces, and I just really was not. I have a theater degree and have been acting, since I was young, and so I was like, oh, I just like know how to do it, and it's like, oh, I don't know how to act for camera in any way, and I don't know how to audition out here, and I don't have like the connections and the personal connections with people out here. And I really just was overwhelmed and lost to the point that I still don't think I've recovered from it. Like I went into things wholly underprepared and have not been asked like back by some of those casting people.
And do you feel that it's still something you want to achieve, or did you kind of go through it and you're like, it's just not, I'd rather be more into comedy, podcast, developing my own thing?
I would definitely still like to achieve it. It did make me sort of pivot. I didn't ever see myself as a writer or like a TV writer. And I know a lot of people get into stand up to do that. I got into stand up to be a performer. And so, but now I write. That's what I make most of my money doing. And that's probably what my profession is, especially this year when I'm not doing stand up. But I've written throughout all, I've had jobs throughout all of quarantine and COVID. And so that is definitely like a positive side effect of me being a bad actress when I got out here. So yeah. I'm very happy. And I mean, the nice thing with writing is like those jobs I do think are more consistent than probably acting jobs in a lot of ways.
Yeah, big time.
But I would love to be able to get cast in things or, like just not feel intimidated. I feel so nervous when I go into auditions, and like I can be really prepared and then I get in there and I'm like, oh my God, this is so like mortifying and embarrassing and all of these like things that I just wouldn't think I would feel at this like stage in my life.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Because this is LA. I mean, there's people out here that can really, really act. And I think about it. Sorry, my mom was calling. I think about it in terms of like, well, think if these people that think they're funny but have never really done stand up show up to do stand up. Like they're not going to be good at it in the same way as like I've acted and I've had people tell me I was good. I was Juliet in college, but this is the land of like I go out for parts sometimes and then you see who get it and it's famous people. And right. So it's like the competition is so different that it's just really hard out here.
Yeah. And everything in this town feels like you're competing against the talent and the fame on top of the talent.
Absolutely. Because you see who got it and you go, oh yeah, why did I even go audition? Like, of course, that's a better choice. And I think it's really hard to break in right now because I just think people that have already done it sort of end up getting those opportunities. And it feels like in the 90s and early 2000s, like they would put an unknown in roles and now they don't really do that as much.
Yeah, there used to be like a star making system and
yeah,
you can really see it in music. Like how many new like singing divas, like it's still Mariah Carey. Like they don't make new talent the way they used to. And as the business shrinks, like the safe bets, like let's just do another Tom Cruise movie. Let's just do another one. Like we don't want to build a new star.
Even for like these shows that I think comics would be like the hosts of are now famous people hosting.
Yeah. I mean, Simon Gibson, obviously, right? Yeah, we were talking about how his for Cannonball, like he was up against some like major stars.
Wow. Yeah.
And like to get it is like, that's where comedians can shine though, is because they're quicker on their feet.
Yeah. Yes. And if they're like open to it, then you're like, oh, great. Then because sometimes I'll get stuff and they're like, we're really looking for like a comedy voice. And,
yeah.
But I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And it's an intimidating, for some reason, like acting feels more vulnerable than comedy.
I
It's
think so, but a lot of people would say, I think most of the world would say the opposite because you're
really,
getting to, yeah, because you're getting to be a character.
yeah,
And so it's like people can hate the character or not think the character's funny or is a bitch or whatever. But like when you're doing stand up, it's like you're doing you. You're obviously doing an enlarged version of you or a different take on you, but it's still like you're saying your name.
yeah,
And so that's much more vulnerable, I think, to most people. It's just we feel more comfortable doing stand up.
yeah. It's interesting because like I feel like if I was acting in something and it was bad, I would feel like they didn't like, even though it's like the character, or if the character did something bad, I'd still, because of doing stand up first, I feel like it's me still, you know?
Oh no, I think being a villain is like the dream. The dream. And like the meaner and worse you are, like the better you've done.
We're coming into like a post COVID year. Everyone has their goals. What are your goals for 2021?
Oh God, I'm not even there yet.
We're in it.
I know. I just I'm writing on something right now. And then at some point I would like to write and work on my own stuff when there's when there's time, when there's a break. And that's as much as I'm setting my goals.
That's good. Is it something you were going to write and also be in?
I don't know. I don't really I've sold two shows and that was the intention for both of those. But one of these ideas is like high school age kids. And so that's sort of like freeing because it's like, well, I'm not going to do that. And so
No,
I
no,
think
90210. No.
no, maybe a teacher, like a fun coach. But I'm definitely pulling back from that. And maybe that's a mistake, but I'm just sort of like want to create for creation's sake and not to force myself into it.
Yeah. I love how like off the cuff. I sold two shows and walk us through that. Like what does that mean? That means so many different things. Like what is it for you selling two shows?
So I worked with another writer and we created a concept and then we went and pitched it to production companies. One of them wanted to do it. And then the three of us went to a studio together and the studio wanted to do it. And so then the studio comes on board and then I think there were five of us and then we went to the network and the network says, yes, we want to do it. And then we're all like a little team. And then we basically got paid to write a pilot script. And the first one almost got picked up, did not. And so then my second go around, we were with the same production company again. And we went directly to the network this time, like skipped over the studio. And then the network decided to buy it. And then we ended up with the same studio again. And again, we got paid to write the script and it did not go. So it's, you get like a deadline article. It's very, very exciting.
Yeah,
And it's, these were networks. So like these were broadcast. And so they have like a pretty strict schedule. Like it's in cable and streaming, you can create something and then it's like out in the ether and they can wait and blah, blah, blah. But with broadcast, it's like you're selling in August, September, you're writing through December, January, and by around like this time if it's going or not. And so I did like that timetable, at least, of like, they have to tell
Right.
And I've seen other people, just have things dragged out for years.
Yeah, it's a meeting based town. So like taking meetings is like, it's fun. It's like it's like where all the action happens and you
Well, and
feel
some
like your
people
life.
really don't like meetings,
I love
Some people,
meetings.
well, but you're lucky. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to go on a meeting ever again. I just want to like create. And so, it's hard because you have to go on the meetings to be able to sell what you create.
Yeah. When you're selling these shows and you're selling it without the script that they're going to pay you to
Right.
write,
Yeah.
what are you bringing to the meeting that's selling them? Is there anything physical or is it just like you're just selling them the idea in the room?
No, it's so for ours, we end up creating like a very long, a lot of people call it like a show Bible. And so it's like a pitch document. It ends up being like 10 to 15 pages of like why you want to do this, who the characters are, what you think the pilot would be, and then what some like additional other storylines would be. And so you are like learning that, memorizing that. You have personal anecdotes that you're putting into it, and you really have to like sell it. And sometimes you're talking for like 30 minutes straight too. Like it's just like, you're going through it. Luckily I pitched with my writing partner, so we were able to like ping pong back and forth, so that was helpful. But we were sitting at one of the networks, and another like group of writers came in, and they had like a poster board that they walked in with, and it had like pictures and all that, and we were like, oh no, we don't have, like, you felt like you were at school.
Oh yeah, that feel.
Like,
oh yeah.
the project. But they were trying to sell a procedural, like an hour-long drama procedural, and so they had all these different characters that they like needed to show. But it did make you be like, oh shit, I'm just going in there and like talking as myself. How boring for these people.
Yeah, that was the worst on school days, when you come in with your project you're proud of, and then someone's just like has a full volcano and it's exploding. You're like,
yeah.
All right.
So it was definitely that feeling.
What are like the pros and cons of like showing up to that meeting with the pitch book and also the script, like like the first the pilot?
I don't really know, just because I've done it. The like, I don't think it's even necessarily the more traditional route. I've just done it like the concept route. I think when you have a script, it's a lot easier for them to be like, no, you know. But it's also you're more set in like, this is what it is. Do you want it or not? And with both the shows I've sold, there were definitely major like tweaks that happened at some point that were either what the studio or the network wanted, and you either go, okay, I can make that work, or no, I don't want to do that. And then, if you say, no, I don't want to do that, you run the risk of them being like, well, then we don't want to do the show. So, script in hand, you're like, this is what it is. Do you want it? Idea in hand, I think they like to like sort of have their fingers on it a little bit more.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because if you're coming with the idea, they can feel like they're helping you get the little bird out of the tree. But if you come with the script, it's like you're kind of selling different things. One, you're selling a script. The other one, you're selling an idea. An idea is more exciting. Script is like homework. I got to go home and read this and make notes. And
right. So like with the first one, it got really close. I'm like still so proud of what we wrote. And then because it was so strong, they wanted to take it elsewhere. Like the one network didn't want to do it, and so it was like, okay, let's take it other places. But then by doing that, we took it to places, and they were like, well, we didn't help develop this. Yeah. And so a lot of places really just like to be on the ground floor. And maybe that's just an excuse, and they didn't like what it was, or it wasn't right for them. But you do end up hearing that of like, oh, we want to be there since the beginning, and sometimes that turns people off if they're not.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I used to mix records, which is like putting all the different parts of the music together to make the final product. And you see those boards, it kind of looks like NASA. There's all these little faders, and there'd always be some on the side you'd keep for like when everyone comes by with their input and they want to touch something. Oh yeah, turn that one up, and it doesn't do anything. We're like, yeah, no, that was good. That was good. Because everyone needs to feel like it's their baby too. Yeah. In order to make it work. Well, this is great. I know you got places to be, shows to kill. I hope the 15 goes well and you knock it out of the park. I'm sure you do. You're always great. Every time
daytime backyard show. I mean, this is uncharted territory for me. I don't think I've done a daytime.
No, you didn't do any of the beach shows or anything around LA?
No, I've done a gondola show, but it was at night.
Okay, yeah. It's people. I find that like they can be good or bad. So it's just like anything else. A lot of these outdoor shows in weird places, you're like, well, it's better than some bar shows I've done. So
yeah. No, I love a weird venue or I actually really do enjoy being outside. So I hope that like trend stays. I even like the Zoom shows. I just need the love. I just need the attention. That's my fix.
Yeah, attention, reps, and it forces you to write. So
it has not forced me to write.
Well, it sounds like you're writing a lot anyway. So where do people find you? Give us your socials, your pod, all that stuff.
So my Twitter is at Megan Gailey, Megangailey, and I have a forthcoming podcast with the Lifetime Network that is coming out in March.
Nice.
And then anything I'm doing or like promoting, I put it all on my Twitter, but then my Instagram is Better Megan Gailey, and it's just fun over there too. So just the word better in front of my name, Better.
And what's the podcast called coming out?
I love a Lifetime movie.
I love a Lifetime movie. Better Megan Gailey. Thank you so much. Enjoy your show, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.